Well, today, as I think you all know, our conversation is with LaNorma Fox, the world-famous Queen of the Air, whose truly death-defying trapeze act prompted one reporter to write, "She possesses the courage of a half a dozen lions." So today we're going to ask LaNorma to share her recollections of a wonderful career that actually began in a Danish ballet school and eventually led to the center ring of the Ringling Brothers and Barnum and Bailey Circus. And we're going to also learn about her experiences both on and off the set for the filming of The Greatest Show on Earth, and then also hear from her what it has meant to her to call Sarasota her home since 1949. So join me in welcoming the Queen of the Air. I always get the opportunity to visit with our guests for quite a while before you all get here. And so sometimes I've already asked all the good questions, so I have to remember to ask them again. But we want to start in Denmark, in the ballet school, if you would. And I have several newspaper accounts or interviews that told me about how you got started in the circus. But then I actually read one that said you ran away to join the circus. But let's go back to 4-year-old, and your name was Norma Inga Nielsen, right?
That's correct, yes.
And we've got the microphone, and I'm going to encourage LaNorma to speak to you and not to me, but tell us about those early days in the ballet school.
We were 4 sisters, all in ballet school, and everybody was having a terrific time because our mom was the one sewing for the school's recitals, and that was the reason that we managed to be able to afford ballet lessons. All of us were doing well, especially one of them. She managed to join up with the Royal Danish Ballet and made several appearances in this country and became a solo dancer, both her and her husband, and then by retiring started their own school in their hometown. So that was wonderful for them. I, in turn, joined up with a performer that she was looking for. Well, at that time I was 13. She was looking for a girl to replace her daughter who was going to get married, and they were doing a balancing ladder act that appeared in sort of a vaudeville in my hometown. They engaged different performers. They had singers, dancers, and some circus performers. This woman was there with her balancing ladder. Her daughter was going to get married, and she was looking for another one to take her place on the ladder. So she went to the ballet school, and she picked me out. And my family had to discuss with her everything, and okay, papers were signed, and I went with her, a total stranger to me. Life wasn't too easy. I learned a lot. She found out that I was really too small to do the balancing ladder with her, so she started teaching me single trapeze acts. And that's what became of me, a single trapeze performer.
And was that first teacher, was that Emily?
Emily Altenborg, yes.
So she discovered you at the ballet school. Did you know they were there looking?
Yes, because they came, and they wanted my younger sister, but she was
too little.
She was too little, yes. So they picked the next one up, and that was me.
Well, that's wonderful. But no regrets, no looking back. When your sister became the ballet star, did you wish you had done that instead?
No, I got to see a lot of her because this lady lived in Copenhagen, And later on my second year practice with her, my little sister was admitted into the Royal Danish Theatre.
Wow.
Ballet, right? So we managed to see each other a little. She could come and see me, and Miss Altenburg would bring me over to see her. This way, it was like part of my family was still there.
Uh-huh. So,
But
go ahead. These early years were sort of in a variety show with your single trapeze act, or when did you join up in the circus world?
no, it was in between. There was circus and vaudeville and like here, fairs. We would do fairs too. And all kind of festivals. Then came the war was on there, and we had to go where the Germans wanted us to go, and which meant we were sent to Norway to work up there, and that was not very pleasant.
Yeah?
Yeah, we had a very hard trip going over because it was like a troop ship. There were 5 ships, and they were all with troops heading for Norway. And they were leaving in the night time, right, and hoped to be in there towards morning, but they were attacked with torpedoes and whatever. We were on number 5, and number 6 went down. We were told, go ahead and jump. And that was in January. I didn't feel like jumping. The North Sea, anyhow.
Wow.
That was not the most pleasant part. After that, we thought she was already not allowed to bring me because I was underage. But then she decided something has to be done about that. And she went to the authorities up there and managed to give us permission to come back through Sweden instead of having to go back on the ships again. And the first little town coming into Sweden, we just sort of got off the train and nobody stopped us. And that was it. We were in Sweden till the end of the war. And there I worked on a couple of beautiful circuses. There was Circus Altenburg, who was related to her, actually. And Circus Scott, 2 beautiful circuses. Then the war ended, and we came back to Denmark.
And how did you get to America?
Well, we were working a couple of circuses in Denmark, and there was a French riding troupe that I got acquainted through her, insisting me learning to ride horse.
You didn't like that?
No. I'm not the best for horses, honestly. But anyhow, it managed to work out pretty good. He tried to tell me that I didn't have a very good life and something should be done about it. So she got a shock of her life. She thought I was going to have another act for her to show, and instead she lost me.
Aha.
He proposed, we got married. Then we went to England. He continued with the troupe. It was a French riding troupe, very interesting, beautiful, French style, powdered wigs and the whole bit. And at that time, I had my baby in England because we stayed up there for about 8 months in Blackpool Tower, very well-known place up there. Then after that, we came back to France, and I learned to speak French through my mother-in-law. She insisted. and I worked Cirque l'Hiver and went on the road with the Cirque Bouquillon. Very exciting too. And that is when John Nord, he had a sidekick with him, 6 dolls, I think. Anyhow, some agent saw me work and asked if I would be interested to come to America. So that's how it happened.
Had you heard of the Ringling Circus?
I've heard of it, yes,
Yeah.
everybody in Europe knew, but I didn't realize how big it really was. It was a village.
So
And
the circuses you were with in Europe, were they one-ring circuses?
yes,
So
at that time there was no 3 rings over there. It started slowly afterwards. But yes, there were 1-ring circus like Circus Sarasota does here. Beautiful, you know. You see every act, every detail. This, I think, is the better way to see a circus.
we were talking about some of the new
Yeah.
developments in circus a little bit, and but so you joined the Ringling Circus, and that brought you to Sarasota.
Right. Beautiful. That was a beautiful time. We left in France like in February and came down here, and the sun was shining, and we had more than winter clothes on. And it took us maybe about a week to really realize that you had to get new wardrobe down here. We were all in warm clothes. It didn't take long. We fell in love with Sarasota. It was beautiful. You walked down Main Street, you knew everybody because it was all show people. It was beautiful. No high rises. You could get to the water from every angle you wanted. Today, you cannot. You want to go fishing? You had the old bridge in those days, and the fish were biting. Today, you are pleased to find a pinfish, maybe.
So your act was a single trapeze act.
Yes.
I think there's a lot of language in the circus, and I know we have a lot of circus people, show folk here, but sometimes some of that language needs translation for those of us who just sit in the bleachers and watch. So I think it's pretty clear, but distinguish between your act, a single trapeze act, and what we might think of as a trapeze act.
Yes, there is quite a lot of difference. You have cradle acts, you have single trapeze, and I was single trapeze working by myself. And everything I did was controlled by me. I never left my bar willingly.
Willingly?
Anyhow, it's a thing where you start a strong routine of very difficult plances that call for strength and all, and then you get into a beautiful swinging routine where you catch yourself by your ankles, by your heels, and finally throw yourself forwards and catch by one knee.
You used a word there, planges.
Plances, yes.
What is that?
That has got to do with strength. You hold yourself by one arm and balance your whole body over that one arm, which is a very hard trick to do. You don't see too much of it now. But, and then you have balances. That is like swinging on a back balance and drop down to your ankles. So it's not exactly the same. Plances and balances, that's about all it is.
And you learned the single trapeze from your first teacher, Emily.
Yes.
How do you, I've always wondered, like, how do you learn to fall and catch yourself by your ankle? I mean, I just don't know how you learn that. I mean...
Well, the way I used to explain it when I teach the kids, feet out, spread your legs, and go. But I had them tied to the side of the top in case, just in case they didn't land right. But they did usually That's only what it is. Walk like Charlie Chaplin with your feet out, spread and go.
So you catch yourself by your heel?
Yes.
Or by your wrist, you said?
No.
Your ankles?
By my heels, by my ankles, and one knee. That is where you circle the bar, you throw yourself forwards and catch yourself by one knee against one of the ropes.
And what was your signature act? What was your big claim to fame?
I guess they would say heel and toe. My heel act, my heel catches. Yes.
Wow. There was one other word I read when I was reading about you, iron jaw spins.
Yes, iron jaw, my teeth.
Ow. Yeah?
I said that too, yes.
You did that?
That was not very pleasant, and I did that for quite a few years. It takes a lot of strength. You have to have very good neck muscles, and you don't open your mouth too much.
You can't complain, I guess, while you're doing that, can you?
No, if it hurts, you just don't say nothing.
I guess it would hurt worse if you said this hurts.
Yes.
Was there ever a stunt that you really, really wanted to perform and you just never were able to do it?
No, I thought I had enough.
One of the things I had asked LaNorma before we began, if she wanted to talk about the times you fell, and you had an interesting response, and I want you to share that again.
Yeah, I can talk about it. It's over. I did it, started out real good. 1962, my rigging, there was a loop that slipped, and I went down and scattered one heel and damaged the left side of my pelvis. Then the following year, after I got over that, my son, who would have been a good performer, had a motorcycle accident that left him crippled. 42 years in a wheelchair. Well, following his accident in 1969, I had by that time gone into space rigging, very, very high, a lot of equipment, and we were setting the rigging up in Myrtle Beach, South Carolina, when a couple of stakes gave out and the whole rigging came down just as I was doing my final trick, which was a breakaway with the loop. And usually the rigging would come down with that, with fireworks and all, but it was a little faster than I expected. I landed in the sand and everything on top of me, and they had to revive me. That was a bad one. 7 months, I had to prove that it wasn't my fault, so I opened in Puerto Rico and started all over again. Even went as far as go and work in Tokyo. And there they wanted the rigging even higher, so they put me on top of a building. I had a lot of fun.
I love, though, the response. I wouldn't have ever done it in the first place, but
No.
Had I fallen, I don't think I would have had the courage of a half dozen lions to go do that again. But what I was surprised about was I was expecting you to say 3 years later, 7 months later, you did it again. What was it like that first time you did it again for an audience?
That was a strange, strange feeling, because as the act went along, I feel, hey, everything is okay, we're staying up here, right? And then the last trick went fine. I landed, and that's all it took. One good show, and I was back in. I had to prove something, and I did. Another 5 years, I went with that rigging, And then at that time, my son's condition was we could no longer take him along traveling. So I decided to retire in 1974. And there I started teaching. I had several kids that would come and learn single trapeze. And then I got into ceramics. My son at that time had learned to build steins and things. He had a little kiln, and he made me make one of my dolls that I usually would have made soft sculpture out of clay. It worked out, and since then I took interest in building performers after pictures and all, and eventually it took over. People like it, I think.
A couple of weeks ago, we were here with your friend Jackie, and we talked about his experience as one of the stunt doubles for the greatest show on earth. And in one of the interviews, I'm going to quote you because it's kind of open-ended. You said, everybody was very friendly and down to earth except Betty Hutton. You need to tell us more.
You're right. She was the only one that really didn't connect with anyone. We had Dorothy Lamour, Gloria Graham, Cornel Weil, Heston, everyone. They were so friendly and so down to earth. But she was not as friendly as everybody else. She was actually the star. She didn't like one time I'm in costume. Like, for instance, they bring me in there at 5 o'clock in the morning to get all dolled up, to look exactly like her, and then they hide me behind a curtain. She didn't want anybody to see that she had doubles, right? So once I'm standing there, and here comes two darling little girls running to me. They thought that was Betty's kids. They thought I was her mother. And boy, she came running and snatched them away, and I never even got to say hi, and I would have liked to get acquainted with little girls. Anyhow, that was Betty. Very unfriendly. But then Gloria was wonderful. Everybody loved her because she loved the elephants. And then, forget it, Dorothy Lamour, she topped everything.
Do you still watch the film?
Yeah, once in a while. I loved her in there. Yeah. She loved the midgets. She made friends with the little midgets, Jimmy Armstrong, Frankie Saluto. And every time you saw her, she had one by each hand. She was adorable. And everybody loved her. She was down to earth.
So you joined Ringling Brothers, Barnum and Ballet in 1949.
Yes.
And you moved to Sarasota at that time.
Yeah.
And you told us a little bit about what that experience was like, but Sarasota was home, but you also spent, obviously, most of the time out on the train.
Yes. We were assigned to the family car, which meant that you get two berths if you're, like, we had our little son, right? So we got two beds, one bottom and upper, and the upper one we had it cut in two, put a net on one side, and arrange stuff for luggage on the other. The one with the net, baby was sleeping up there. That was 2 years like that on the show. The third year, I guess because of the film, we got a stateroom. Very little, but very, very nice. We had a lot of privacy. But the thing itself, to arrive here in Sarasota was beautiful, but then you go on the road and you saw a whole village being put up every day, unbelievable. All we saw was the buses pick us up, bring us to the train, and then the bus pick us up in the morning, bring us to the lot, and there it was again. That was unbelievable, that they could move a whole village like that overnight.
Does Mr. Tibble's model bring back a lot of memories for you?
Yes, they do. He has pretty much captured most of the stuff that happened around the 40s. It's exciting. What he's got in there, it's very exciting.
That's wonderful. I have to back up because you mentioned the net for the baby on the train, but you never performed with a net.
No, that would have upset me.
Why?
Because I'm swinging and I'm not thinking of letting go of my bar. I need all my balance for every trick I'm doing, right? And one time, one town insisted there should be a net. So they have firemen holding a giant net, running up and down underneath me. It scared me to death. Honestly.
You were more scared of the net.
I was. What happened if they don't really catch me in it, right?
So you'd rather...
No net.
So how has Sarasota changed? I mean, you've talked about the high rises, but it's still home.
It's still home. We still love it. And Main Street is still there. Most of the old things on Main Street is still there, right? But it spreads out. It spreads out. We are almost to Venice. We are through Bradenton, now Lakewood Ranch, and we keep spreading out.
It's getting bigger.
And more high rises and less waterways.
LaNorma has been, you were inducted into or honored with the Ringling Circus Celebrity Award in the 70s, I believe.
Yes.
And you have worked with that group pretty much ever since, haven't you?
Yes, I've been on the committee with them, and I have also worked a lot with Debbie and all, because I like to create some of the dolls that I create, but also life-size. I made a Eunice doll.
Eunice being the one...
Standing on one finger.
One finger.
And I also made another couple of dolls that were hanging there for a while, but since the remodeling now, I don't know where they're planning to use them.
Yeah. What I'd like to do now, I'm going to ask Norma some more questions, but if you have your questions, if you want to take some time to write them down, if you have not, and then just raise your hand so Maureen knows to get them. We'll move on to your questions in just a minute. I want to talk a little bit about the young people that you've trained, because we were talking about that earlier. Mm-hmm. You still will help young people learn the trapeze. How do you do that? How do you go about doing that?
I have like an upright in my backyard. And if anybody care to come and practice on it, you know, they will usually call and ask if I could help them with a certain trick, this or that. And I have taught several that went into the business, like Bill Ballantyne's daughter, Bridget Ballantine. I actually had built a chandelier for her, and she went and worked in Vegas with it for a while, and then she sort of retired and got married. But then, like little Rietta Valenda, I practiced with her too, and she also did a high act with a little bit of a rocket and a star. But
how high is the trapeze in your backyard?
I'd say maybe 30 feet. Wow. Would it be? But then that is from the very top bar. Then you gotta fix up, there goes a crane bar, and then maybe 12 feet of ropes. The kids are not that high. You can put them in certain heights because you'll have pulleys to lift the equipment up and down to suit whatever size the kid is, right? So
And you use a ladder?
I use a step ladder on the side. If they can't find a certain position to get into, I can help them that way. Sometimes it works pretty good.
I think you should sell tickets to that, because I would kind of like to. I would like to watch that. Actually, I think that sounds very interesting.
Yeah.
So, and then the other thing that we just talked about, Sarasota's been home.
Right.
You've known all these families, and I don't know why this delights me, but to know that you've known Dolly.
Oh, yes.
Since she was just a little Dolly, Dolly Jacobs,
Yeah.
is that continuum here in Sarasota of the community. How have you you stay connected with all those people, right?
Yes, those are all friends of mine. And actually, the first time I met little Luann, she was in a baby buggy, and that was in 1954.
Wow. And you go to the circus every year and watch her fly?
Yes, yeah. I love to see the show, and it betters itself each time. Really. They're keeping the tradition exactly what we want it, right? Real circus.
Real circus.
Yes.
Maureen, do we have some questions?
Yeah, give me a minute.
Oh, we're giving Maureen just a minute here. Well, thank you. We're going to get the questions from the audience, but is there anything that I didn't ask you that you would like to share?
I think we pretty much covered everything.
We covered everything?
Maybe, yeah.
Well, it certainly has been. I asked LaNorma earlier if she realizes that her life has been so much more exciting than at least mine, and I'm going to guess most people here, and you know that. I mean,
Yeah. It's been exciting.
you've lived more places than I've visited, and
Yes. Yeah,
But,
I'm trying to think back. Forget it. I cannot remember any of it.
well, it's been wonderful to have you here, and when we're finished here with the questions from the audience, if you want to join us just right across the lobby, on the other side of the lobby, there'll be a reception where you can say hello to LaNorma and maybe ask some other questions. But we're going to have these. I'm rushing poor Maureen over there to get her her questions to us. Yep, not quite yet.
One question while you wait.
Okay.
How about her book that's been published?
Oh, there's a book.
Oh, yes. Yes, but it's in Danish, and you have to read what's in there on a small desk that comes with the book. But I think you put that in the computer.
Okay. So your book's in Danish.
It's in Danish, yes.
When did you write it?
I didn't write it.
Oh, it's about you.
It's about me, yes.
Do you still speak Danish?
Yes,
Yeah?
I do, yeah.
Okay, I have to. Okay. How did life on the road change between like 1949 to 1974? That's quite a long time. 70 or 25 years. How did, or yeah, 15 years, I guess. How did life change?
It's hard to say how it's changed. Like, life became a little bit different, of course. But I had my hands full. You know, I was taking care of my son, and that was it. That was my life there for a long, long time.
Here's an interesting question. Do you have any memories or insights into John Ringling North?
Not very much. He didn't associate too much with the performers. He was a very busy man. All I know is that he spent a lot of time in Europe.
Yeah.
He loved Rome. That's all. He was most always there.
Like his uncle.
I guess.
This is a question. It says, what women do you admire the most? I don't know whether this is circus women or just all women, but do you have any women in the world you admire a great deal?
I don't have any special. I love everybody, you know. So as far as a great woman, they're all great to me.
Here's a question, and we didn't talk a lot about your husband as a performer, but he was an equestrian, right?
Yes, he was on horseback.
And did he continue to perform when you come to America?
They had him present the Liberty horses on the Ringling show because, well, he needed to do something else besides just taking care of my rigging. No, that's it. And you know, they have like a group of horses on the show that they let anybody step in with a whip and the horse know what they're doing. Honestly, they're all horses and they've done their job for years.
So you say the horses can pretty much do it without...
The horses did the act. They need a man to stand in there with a whip.
I think on that laughter, I'm going to thank you for being here, because that's a great image to, I think, to land on. And I think,
Yeah.
I think, LaNorma, you gave me a new motto in life. It's like you said earlier about your fall, you just needed one good show and you were back.
That's right.
And so you've had another good show here today. You're back. Thank you so much for being here. Thank you all.
That was fun. That was fun.
Thank you, everyone.